So today I thought we would look a little bit more at Canada. Now I am aware that some of the Canadian viewers have been saying, Diane, you haven't made a video about Canada in forever, and I'm aware of that. Aware, the word of the day. The thing about Canada is a lot like Ireland in that you get lumped in with America just like we get lumped in with Britain. We know how you feel. So then I found this video, top 10 reasons not to move to Canada, and I couldn't think of any apart from the fact that subjectively it doesn't fit into my life currently, but there's nothing objectionable about Canada itself. The people are lovely, the weather is fun, sometimes you might say too snowy or whatever, but there's nothing not nice about Canada. Isn't that what they say? Canadians are so nice. So I'm curious to look at this video today. Before I get into the video, do be sure to like and subscribe to the video. Just a reminder, subscribing is totally free. It helps me and the algorithm get my videos out there, so I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. No threat today. Here we go, top 10 reasons not to move to Canada.
Oh, Canada! With everything going on in the world right now, you may have contemplated moving to another country. Of course, Americans love threatening to move to Canada, especially after presidential elections, but the data shows that although many talk the talk, Americans rarely walk the walk. And they don't drive or fly either. Now, if you are one of the 10,000 US citizens each year who actually do mean it, I don't blame you. Since its founding in 1867, Canada has become a country with amazing public education, low crime, great food, friendly residents, and of course, some of the world's finest nature. The land of Banff, Vancouver Island, Niagara Falls, Toronto, and Montreal is also the second largest country on the planet, bordering 3 oceans. But despite its enormous size, Canada still manages to do a great job juggling all of its responsibilities and taking care of its people. Anyways, despite the amazing quality of life here, the birthplace of pineapple pizza also isn't perfect. Find out why in my top 10 reasons not to move to Canada. And yes, pineapple pizza is originally from Ontario. Number 10. Car insurance. Now, you might not have even thought of this one, but it's extremely expensive to own a car in Canada. Car insurance rates in most provinces are well above the rates in most states. Sure,
well, I was quoted €3,000,
but in most provinces, you can expect to pay at least $1,200 a year on average. And if you live in Toronto or Vancouver, watch out, because the average cost is over $2,100 per year for a regular car, and that's if you have years of a squeaky clean driving record. If you've gotten a ticket or into an accident, or you're just young, car insurance could cost you up to $5,000 a year. Now, to be fair, this is because Canada doesn't really offer a minimum coverage option like they do in America. While Canadian drivers do have to pay a bit more up front, at least they don't have to worry about getting sued or going bankrupt from an accident. Number 9. Places are very spread out. If you don't want to pay for expensive car insurance, you probably aren't going to get very far. Sure, you'll be able to get around the cities with good public transportation like Vancouver, Montreal, or Toronto, but it'll be a lot harder anywhere else. Like I said earlier, Canada is the second largest country in the world, but it's also one of the least densely populated countries with just around 4 people per square kilometer. You need a car in America too, for sure. The US has a population density of over 36 people per square
Canadian already.
As you can probably guess, this leaves a whole lot of room for a whole lot of nothing. Well, technically not nothing, more like a whole lot of beautiful wilderness. But as far as human civilization goes, well, it's exactly that. Far. Number 8. Healthcare. Now I know you're probably thinking, what? You said Canada has amazing healthcare with universal coverage that's free at the point of service. Yeah, well, it does. But unless you had a major accident or are in life-threatening condition, the wait times are long. Now, to be fair, in the US, wait times are also pretty long, and it actually takes 24 days on average to see a doctor for a first-time appointment versus only 8 days in Canada. But the median wait time for a minor surgery or treatment is 19.8 weeks in Canada, which is more than 3 times longer than in the US. It is free out of pocket though, so at least there's no going bankrupt for medical expenses or having to worry about insurance premiums and deductibles, and no losing healthcare coverage either if you lose your job. Also, prescription drug and medicine prices are generally much cheaper in Canada than the US for the same exact drug. Many of the residents in Canada really like their system as they prefer the longer wait times to expensive premiums and deductibles. Number 7, lack of good paying jobs. jobs. It's
Really?
a good thing Canada
That
has
surprises
universal
me.
health care, because a lot of people wouldn't have any coverage if it was employer-based instead. There just aren't many good-paying jobs available here, especially if you weren't born in Canada. Now, to be fair, Canada's economy has been booming. Well, for Canada standards. There actually are a lot of high-end jobs, but most of them are taken. And whenever a new position does open up, literally hundreds of way overqualified residents apply for it, so
That
the
is
job market's
so
extremely competitive.
something I would
Of course,
never
this
know.
always varies depending on your province, city, and qualifications, but as a whole, it's pretty difficult to find
They
a
have
good
great
paying job
tax
in Canada
breaks
if you aren't
for the film
specialized in a
industry,
skill
so I
that's
knew
in high
that.
demand. Although if you do get a job, incomes are slightly higher on average here than in the United States.
Interesting.
Number 6,
wow.
awful internet. Maybe you're thinking, so what? I don't care about jobs. I already have a great job online. Or I own an online business. Well, in that case, Canada probably isn't the best place for you either, because the internet here is just plain awful. Sure, most of the big
wow.
cities have more options if you can afford to shell out over $100 a month to get decent internet by American standards.
Pausing it there because by American standards, I've said this before, whenever I go on a trip to America, I always notice the internet Wi-Fi is way worse than it is in Ireland. Ireland is pretty well connected because of the fact that it's so small. The Wi-Fi signal is usually really strong. Saying Canadian internet is worse.
It's like 75 megabit download and 10 megabit upload. But as soon as you start to get out into the suburbs and more rural areas, decent internet speeds just aren't available at all. And to make things even worse, many of the plans, even in the cities, have data caps. And in the rural areas, they all have data caps. If you go over your 80 gigabytes, you could end up paying some serious fees. Depending on where you live and how often you use the internet, you might end up spending $400 to $500 a month for crappy 5 megabit download speeds.
What?
Number 5.
That is
high taxes.
insane.
No matter
That
what
is
your job is,
insane.
you're obviously gonna have to pay taxes if you move here. I mean, it's not like the healthcare and infrastructure are gonna pay for themselves. You might see that the highest tax rate in Canada is only 33% compared to 37% in the US, but look a little closer and you'll realize that that's because the highest bracket in Canada starts at income earned over 214,000 Canadian dollars, which is equivalent to about 153,000 US dollars, while the highest bracket in the US starts at 510,000 US dollars. On top of that, each
Oh my
province or
gosh.
territory has its own extremely high income tax as well. Expect to pay at least 10 to 20%
I'm a little bit
additional
lost on
taxes
this.
for most salaries
I'm
in most
so bad at
provinces.
numbers.
And if you're in Quebec, oh boy, you're looking at an additional 26% in taxes on income earned over 106,000
Whoa.
Canadian dollars. Not to mention, sales tax is 5% across the country and can be an additional 6 to 10% depending on the province. And to top it all off, for your first few years of living in Canada, you might also have to pay US taxes or taxes to your original country. Number 4, it's
bummer.
getting expensive. If you thought the taxes were bad enough, wait until you check out the real estate market. Unless you make a lot of money, purchasing a home in Canada is going to be incredibly difficult.
This will
In
be
fact,
interesting because
Vancouver
Ireland
is
has a
currently
housing
the second
crisis.
least affordable city in North America, behind only San Francisco. The
And
median
a
home
housing
value is
shortage,
around
and prices are really high.
970,000 US dollars, and Toronto isn't much better with a
Whoa.
median home value at 517,000 US dollars. Of course, the
Oh my
further you get
gosh.
from the cities, the cheaper things
Trying to do the
are,
maths,
but we already discussed
translate
how
it to euro.
expensive it is to own a car for that commute. Housing aside, the cost of living here is just high in
not a
general.
million miles
Many
off
Canadians
Ireland.
even travel across the border into the US to buy clothes and furniture at lower prices. And gas is usually way cheaper in the States as well. But at least groceries and essential goods
Gas
are
is
pretty
so
on
cheap
par
in
in price
America.
for the most part. Number 3, passive-aggressive residents. The whole Canadians are just so friendly saying isn't exactly true. Polite, for sure, but friendly wouldn't be the best word to describe them. Canadians, for the most
Interesting.
part, are very well-mannered, but they often aren't honest about their feelings except with close friends. In the US, people are usually more comfortable saying they don't want to be friends or that they don't want to hang out. But in Canada,
That is
people
true.
will just
Americans
make
are very
plans that they don't
direct.
stick to because they don't want to say no to your face. Now, in small Canadian towns, the residents are
That makes
usually a
sense.
lot more genuine and will go out of their way with kindness. But in larger cities, people are much less genuinely hospitable and more just non-confrontational. This is nice when you're just visiting and it seems like everyone's so friendly, but if you live here for a while, you might get annoyed at not knowing what people really think of you and having to interpret what they really mean. Number 2, it gets cold. Now, while there are many problems in Canada, they all pale in comparison to the cold. Considering most of the country lies above the 49th parallel, winter in most parts of Canada means 6 to 8 months of not being able to feel your face, 2 to 3 months of insane cold, dangerous roads, and a whole lot of crazy storms. And when I say most parts, I really mean like every part except Vancouver and Victoria. And while they are more similar in climate to Seattle, so they never get too cold, they still aren't exactly a tropical vacation either. Let's just say...
But your infrastructure is pretty good for cold weather, right?
The reason why over 90% of Canadians live within 150 miles of the US border. Go any farther north and, well, just look at what temperatures in Yellowknife were earlier this year. Number 1. The immigration process is difficult. Speaking of the US border, unless you're a highly desired worker with a special skill, there's a lot you'll have to go through to even be able to move to Canada. Although US citizens don't need any type of visa or authorization to visit Canada, this is definitely not the case for immigrating to Canada. In order to qualify for residency, you have to have either a highly desired skill that can be used in a Canadian business, a job waiting for you in Canada, relatives or friends who have nominated you for permanent residency, or you gotta be an entrepreneur with a high net worth. And you can basically forget about applying if you've
That's a
ever
lot
been
like if
convicted of a
I
crime,
wanted to
have a
move to
serious health
America,
risk,
like an
are in
Irish person
financial
wants to move to
trouble, or if
America.
one of your family members has been banned from Canada. The process isn't easy or cheap, and even if you marry a Canadian citizen, you won't necessarily get citizenship.
I definitely hadn't a clue about some of those things, so that was very enlightening as a video. I don't think it would turn me off Canada, to be perfectly honest. And the thing about Canadians being passively nice kind of matches with Irish people's friendly is not friends thing that I talked about in another video. So I don't know. I kind of feel like Canadians are our brothers and sisters from Ireland. In fact, in a lot of ways, I think Irish people and Canadian people have more in common than American people, potentially. I really enjoyed that. Shout out today to a couple of people. Who do you want to shout out today to?
Today I'd like to shout out the Karmic Goals crew over on Patreon. This is all of their names. If you see them in the comments, make sure that you say boop, because that means that they're cool and you're cool. And this month, I love cool. Cool, cool.
Aw, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. That's it for today's video. I'll see you on the other side. Bye. Do you know I have to watch the ads too? Oh, come on. Get to the video. And I feel just as much like I don't want to watch the ads as you do. Hello. I owe the best little shout outer in the world. Yes. People in the comments be saying this is editor Diane's hair because I'm wearing it straight, but that's just not true. Her hair goes over her eye. We are two different people.